Have you ever found yourself standing right at the edge of impossibility, feeling, completely overwhelmed? And then, just maybe, you sensed a quiet stirring inside, a little whisper suggesting perhaps there's still a way forward. Well, that stirring, that quiet whisper, that deep feeling, that's hope. Today, we're embarking on a real deep dive into something so profoundly human and, well, undeniably powerful, the concept of hope. And to guide us through this, we're drawing from the really insightful work of Dr. Nader Attalla, specifically his book, The Soul, 7 Principles for Psychological and Spiritual Wellbeing. We're diving deep into Chapter 8, which is titled Hope, the bridge between present reality and future possibility.
Yes, and our mission today really is to unpack what hope truly is. We want to move way beyond thinking of it as just a simple wish. We're aiming to understand it as a sturdy, active bridge. A bridge connecting where you are right now to where you aspire to be. We'll explore its architecture, what holds it up. We'll look at its many forms, how it really impacts our well-being, and crucially, how we can actually cultivate it, build it, especially when life feels toughest. We'll even touch upon what happens when hope seems to just vanish, and how to build pathways back from that kind of despair.
So, what's in it for you listening right now? Well, it means we're not just throwing definitions around. We're going to give you a framework for understanding hope on a deeper level, sure, but also for actively weaving it into your life, finding those real aha moments that can make a tangible difference in how you navigate, well, everything, defining hope, more than just a wish. Okay, let's really unpack this. Hope, we use that word all the time, don't we? Almost casually sometimes. But when we talk about it in this context, what are we actually talking about? Is it just a feeling, or is there something more solid?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? And its depth can easily get lost. At its core, hope is captured beautifully by St. Thomas Aquinas. He defined it as a future good, difficult but possible to attain. Now, that might sound simple, maybe even a bit ancient, but what's fascinating is how well it aligns with modern psychology. It immediately sets hope apart from, say, fantasy. It's not about something easy or guaranteed. It's about orienting towards something challenging, something requiring effort, but still possible. The difficulty is right there in the definition.
So it's not passive longing then? Because I think a lot of people equate hope with wishing, sitting back, just wishing things would change without actually doing anything. What's the key difference there?
You've put your finger right on it. That distinction is critical. Modern psychology definitely separates real hope from passive wishing. Wishing, like you said, is just desiring an outcome without any real commitment to act. No skin in the game, so to speak. Hope, though, is seen as an active process. It demands engagement. It requires persistence, intentional movement. It's future-oriented, goal-driven, absolutely. But there's this internal commitment to moving towards that future. Carl Jung, he observed, faith, hope, love, and insight are the highest achievements of human effort. They're found and given by experience. Which really highlights that hope isn't just some emotion that drops in on us. It's a capacity, a strength that we actively build, that we hone through living fully. And often that happens most powerfully when we're navigating the tough stuff.
That makes so much sense. It's not just given, it's built through experience. And life certainly gives us plenty of opportunities for that kind of building, doesn't it? No one gets a free pass from difficulty.
Absolutely not. Loss, illness, disappointment, struggle. They're universal. They touch everyone, eventually. But what we see, and what research backs up, is that people who genuinely embody hope manage to maintain this, grounded optimism, a kind of buoyancy, even when facing really demanding circumstances. Their stance towards life stays open, expectant, not closed off or cynical. It's not about being naive. It's a deep belief in future possibility and, importantly, in their own ability to navigate what comes. It lets them keep a sense of purpose, even when things look bleak. 2. The architecture of hope, Snyder's hope theory. So if hope is this active, goal-driven thing, you might naturally ask, okay, what's it made of? What gives it strength? And modern psychology offers a really helpful framework here. Professor Rick Snyder's hope theory is very influential. It breaks hope down into 3 essential pillars. Think of them as the core components that give hope its structure, its resilience.
Okay, a framework. Pillars. That helps visualize it. What's the first one? The foundation.
The first pillar is goals, the destination. Hope always starts with having meaningful aims, specific destinations you feel really invested in. And these aren't vague wishes like, I hope I'm happier. They're more precise targets that give direction and purpose. They pull you forward. It could be nurturing a family, finding a partner, achieving something specific at work, creating something beautiful maybe, or contributing to a cause bigger than yourself, social justice, the environment, these goals act like magnets, drawing you on, giving you something solid to aim for, even when the path is tough. Without a clear destination, hope can just fizzle out.
Right, so the goal is the what, but just having a destination isn't enough fuel to get there. What powers the journey?
That brings us to pillar 2, agency, the energy. This is all about your belief in your own capacity, your capacity to start moving towards those goals, and maybe more importantly, to keep moving, even when things get hard. This sense of agency, it's the conviction that you can influence outcomes, that you can navigate obstacles, that your efforts actually matter. It's the fuel, the internal engine that powers perseverance, especially when things don't happen immediately. Think of it as that inner voice saying, I can do this, I can keep trying. Without that belief, even the best goals can just stay dreams.
Okay, destination and energy. But then how do you actually find your way? This next part seems really interesting. Hopeful people don't just see one path, do they?
Precisely. And that's pillar 3, pathways to routes. This last piece is about seeing not just one way, but multiple potential routes, different strategies, different approaches to reach your goals. People high in hope don't get stuck on one narrow path. If that path gets blocked, they don't just give up. They mentally map out other possibilities. They recognize there's often more than one way to get somewhere. This mental flexibility is huge because life, well, it's rarely a straight line, is it? So when one route is blocked, a challenge pops up, circumstances change, a strategy fails, they don't collapse. Their adaptability lets them pivot, brainstorm alternatives, problem solve, find new ways forward. Maybe unconventional ways, but ways forward nonetheless. It's crucial for navigating roadblocks. A closed door isn't the end. It's an invitation to find another door or maybe build one. 3, balancing hope and spiritual growth. Now this framework, goals, agency, pathways, and it often brings up a really important question for people exploring spirituality. Does actively pursuing goals clash with spiritual ideas like non-attachment or surrender? You know, the idea of letting go of desires.
That's a great point. Yeah, because on one hand, we're talking about actively chasing goals, and on the other, many traditions emphasize detachment from outcomes, surrendering to a higher will. How do those fit together?
It's less about a contradiction in having goals themselves and more about how we relate to them. The trouble comes when we get attached in a really rigid, grasping way. Think about holding your goals lightly, like a butterfly in your hand, beautiful, inspiring, but not gripped tightly. This allows them to provide direction without causing immense suffering if things shift unexpectedly, because honestly, the universe often has plans that are different, maybe even better than what our limited ego can imagine. Holding goals lightly keeps us open to that.
So it's the how we hold them, the internal posture, not whether we have goals at all.
Precisely. What shows up in your life often does reflect what you consistently hold in your thoughts. So the key is releasing that anxious desire, that rigid expectation, that need for it to be exactly a certain way, while still fiercely holding on to the positive vision and the energy the goal inspires. It's a balance. You hope for something, you work towards it, but you also trust the larger flow, trusting that even unexpected or difficult paths can serve your deepest growth if you stay open to the lessons.
That reminds me of the open-handed prayer you mentioned, may the highest good unfold. How does that encapsulate this balance?
It's a perfect example. May the highest good unfold in this situation. It combines that purposeful intention you want the best with a humble recognition of our limited view. We state our hope, our desire, but we also acknowledge we don't see the whole picture. It's an act of trust that no matter how things look, life's ultimate invitation is always there. Expand in love, in consciousness, in wisdom. That invitation remains, regardless of the external stuff. Even in chaos, even in difficulty, that call towards wholeness is present. And often it's those really challenging situations that become our greatest teachers, revealing courage and compassion we didn't know we had.
4, the evolution of hope.
That's a really transformative perspective.
Yeah.
So as we grow, maybe spiritually or just in awareness, does our understanding of hope itself change? Does what we hope for evolve? It absolutely does, and it's fascinating to observe. As spiritual growth deepens, you often see a natural shift in the kinds of goals people hold and what motivates them. Those earlier drivers may be wealth, fame, prestige, power over others, getting ahead, seeking approval, even just security. They start to lose their grip. They gradually yield to higher aspirations. You see this shift towards things like deeper love, wider compassion, consistent kindness, more cooperation instead of competition, A desire for genuine freedom, for creativity just for its own sake, and ultimately for spiritual awakening, for connection.
Wow, that sounds like a fundamental shift. It's moving beyond just me and my stuff.
Exactly. It's a reorientation.
Yeah.
Hopes are no longer primarily about personal gain or validation. They naturally expand to include the well-being of others, the health of the planet, the flourishing of humanity. The energy of hope is still there, just as strong, but its focus widens dramatically, from individual to collective, from temporary fixes to eternal values. It becomes more about giving than getting.
So hope itself evolves. It's not just a bridge to my better future anymore, but maybe a bridge to our better future, contributing to something bigger.
Beautifully put. Hope evolves from serving just personal advancement to aligning with universal flourishing, with the greater good. And importantly, it does this without losing its active nature, that engagement, that perseverance, that trust and possibility. Someone who once hoped purely for a promotion for status might, through growth, shift their hope towards creating a truly supportive and equitable team environment. Their fulfillment comes from the collective success. It becomes a contribution, really, to humanity's higher potential. A quiet internal revolution with powerful outward ripples. V, the spectrum of hope. Many illuminations. Just like light hitting a prism doesn't stay white but splits into a rainbow, hope isn't monolithic either. It actually splits into distinct forms, each with its own quality, its own purpose, its own kind of light. We often talk about hope as one thing, but understanding this spectrum gives us a richer way to talk about our inner lives and figure out which kind of hope fits which situation.
A spectrum of hope. I like that. Not just one color. So what's the first one? Maybe the most down to earth.
Let's start with realistic hope. The grounded optimist. Picture standing at the base of a mountain you intend to climb. You see the peak, you check the weather, you acknowledge the challenges ahead, the steep parts, the loose rocks, but you also see the possibility of reaching the top. That's realistic hope. It's about seeing things exactly as they are. No sugarcoating, no denial, but also staying open to positive developments. It doesn't wear rose-tinted glasses, but it doesn't give in to cynicism either. It's like a skilled navigator, charting a course based on reality, but confident in reaching the destination. It lets us face tough situations, health issues, relationship problems, career setbacks honestly, while still actively looking for ways forward.
Okay, hope with its feet on the ground. Makes sense. What about hope for something much bigger, something collective, needing a shared dream?
That brings us to utopian hope, the collective dream. Ever been part of a group working towards something so inspiring it just energizes everyone? This kind of hope thrives in shared action, aiming for a better future for everyone. A future that might seem idealistic, but deeply necessary. It requires partnership, pooling vision, and effort. Think about the permaculture movement. It's a living example based on caring for the earth, caring for people, designing sustainably. It envisions communities living in harmony with nature. Bill Mollison, one of his co-founders, said something like, "Everything we need for a good life is right here. Sun, wind, people. Cooperation brings harmony, opposition brings disaster." Now, utopian hope isn't naive. It knows change is hard, systems are resistant. But it's that shared belief in a better future that fuels the persistence needed. When we join movements larger than ourselves, environmental, social justice, community building, we tap into this energy, finding strength in a shared vision we build together.
Shared hope, building a bigger dream. Okay. But what if your own hope just tanks? When your light feels like it's gone out and you can't see the next step?
Ah, yes. In those really dark times, we often rely on borrowed hope, the lantern in darkness. There are times when our own inner light dims so much, our vision gets so cloudy, we just can't see a way forward. That's when borrowed hope becomes essential. It's the faith others hold for us when we can't hold it ourselves, like one candle sharing its flame, a friend, a therapist, a mentor, a whole community. They can sometimes see possibilities for us that are totally invisible from where we're standing. If we trust them, we can kind of lean on their confidence, borrow their hope, until we can rekindle our own. Support networks are crucial here. Isolation breeds hopelessness. Connection helps us imagine possibilities again. That hand reaching out in the dark might just carry the spark we need.
That's incredibly powerful, knowing you don't have to generate it all yourself sometimes. What about a hope that goes beyond specific results? Something more spiritual.
That would be transcendent spiritual hope, beyond specific outcomes. Unlike hope tied to getting a specific job or outcome, this is more of a generalized trust in life itself. In the bigger picture, it's an attitude of deep openness, without needing to define exactly how things should turn out. It's a quiet knowing that things will ultimately work out in some larger sense, or that we'll find the strength to meet whatever comes, even if it's not what we planned. Interestingly, this often emerges most strongly during what mystics call the dark night of the soul, periods of intense suffering or disillusionment when our usual hopes fall apart. Rumi, the Sufi poet, said, "Where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure." When everything seems devastated, sometimes we find this deeper, unshakable wellspring. A recognition that something within us is indestructible. It doesn't deny the pain, but finds meaning within it. It's faith in the underlying goodness or purpose of existence, regardless of appearances.
It sounds almost like a core optimism, maybe something we start with, like a default setting we sometimes lose touch with.
Exactly. Which leads us to inborn hope, the original optimism. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall down constantly, right? Bump after bump. But they keep getting up, driven by this incredible impulse to move forward. That persistence reflects inborn hope. It's this natural optimism wired into us from birth. Children have it assuming good things are possible, worth striving for, unless life, or maybe adults, kind of dampens it. Like a seed programmed to grow towards light, it's our biological and spiritual inheritance. Reconnecting with it often means clearing away the layers of disappointment and limiting beliefs that have obscured it over time. Remembering our basic programming for growth and possibility.
So we start with it, but life can cover it up. What about the flip side? Hope that's not so grounded. The kind that might set us up for a fall, sometimes called false hope.
Right, that's unrealistic hope. The beautiful mirage. This type builds expectations on shaky ground, often ignoring facts or reality. Like a mirage in the desert, it promises something wonderful that just isn't there, leaving you more disappointed. It usually involves unrealistic ideas about how quickly things will change, how easy it will be, or how perfect the outcome will be. Maybe placing impossible hopes on a new relationship to fix everything, or expecting transformation without effort, or demanding immediate results. While it often leads to disappointment, it's not inherently bad. It actually reveals our deep longing for fulfillment. The key is to recognize it, then refine it. Channel that energy towards more sustainable, grounded optimism. Turn the mirage into a reachable oasis.
And this next one feels really empowering. The idea that you can consciously decide to be hopeful. Is that what you mean by chosen hope?
Exactly. Chosen hope. The deliberate embrace of possibility. Imagine being at a crossroads. One path leads clearly towards despair or cynicism. The other, though difficult, offers a glimmer of possibility. Choosing that second path, deliberately selecting optimism and engagement despite the challenges, that's chosen hope. Unlike the more spontaneous types, this is a conscious act of will, choosing light when darkness seems easier or more rational. Think of a cancer patient facing a tough prognosis who still plans meaningful conversations, creates memories, or a parent deep in grief who chooses to plant a memorial garden, pouring love into new life. Or a refugee, world turned upside down, who purposefully starts learning a new language, planning for the future in a new land.
Those are incredibly powerful examples. It's not denying the difficulty, but actively choosing how to engage with it, finding possibility within the reality.
Precisely. We see it a lot in palliative care. Patients facing the end of life often shift their hope. Not for an unrealistic cure anymore, but for meaningful quality of life goals. Seeing a grandchild graduate, finishing a project, having important conversations. They recalibrate hope towards what is still possible, what still matters deeply. Chosen hope doesn't pretend reality isn't harsh. It works within it, finding pockets of meaning, connection, and flourishing. It's not fake optimism. It's discovering authentic reasons to engage with life as it is, limitations and all. It's a testament to our agency, even when facing huge adversity.
6. The harvest of hope. Research-backed benefits. You know, the wisdom traditions have always told us hope is vital, like a nutrient for the soul. But what's really compelling now is that modern research consistently confirms this. Hope nourishes both body and spirit in tangible, measurable ways. It's not just a nice feeling. It has real, positive outcomes.
So it's not just faith or anecdotes anymore. There's actual science behind it. What are some of those benefits the research shows? Well, one of the most fundamental findings is its strong link to well-being and life satisfaction. Study after study shows that higher levels of hope correlate positively with overall life satisfaction. Across different ages, cultures, economic situations, it seems to cultivate greater physical and psychological well-being, boost self-esteem, and lead to richer relationships. These aren't just subjective feelings, they're documented outcomes in rigorous studies. Hope isn't just a result of good things happening, it often helps make good things happen.
And it seems to help when things get tough, too, right? Almost like psychological armor.
Absolutely. That's where we see its power in fostering resilience under pressure. What's fascinating is that people with high hope tend to perceive stressful situations differently. Where someone else might see an overwhelming threat, a dead end, they often see a challenge to be met, an obstacle to overcome, maybe even an opportunity for growth. That difference in perception is huge. It's not just positive thinking. It's often a sophisticated reframing process. It helps move them out of that fight, flight, freeze stress response into a state where they can think clearly, creatively, and solve problems. It acts like a buffer against stress and anxiety, allowing for more effective responses instead of getting overwhelmed.
So it changes how you frame the problem, which changes how you respond. That must be a huge driver for actually getting things done, too, for sticking with things.
Indeed, hope acts as a powerful, sustained motivational engine. It helps people not just start taking action, but sustain it over the long haul, especially for complex goals where progress might be slow or setbacks happen. It fuels that persistence when rewards aren't immediate. It keeps people engaged in meaningful pursuits, preventing burnout. This helps individuals stay involved and feel capable, even when facing limitations, physical disabilities, financial constraints, whatever it might be. Instead of giving up, they find creative ways to keep moving forward.
And it sounds like it builds on itself, creates a positive feedback loop. Like a snowball effect, but a good one.
That's exactly the idea behind the upward spiral. Hope has this self-reinforcing nature. When hope leads to positive outcomes, even small ones, that success boosts hope. And that amplified hope then fuels more positive actions and more success. It's a virtuous cycle. Think of starting a new habit, like exercise. That first successful week builds belief, making the second week easier, which builds more belief. It's the opposite of the downward spiral of despair, where negative expectations create negative results, reinforcing the negativity. By consciously cultivating hope, even starting small, we can kickstart this positive cycle. Each little win builds confidence for the next step, changing our whole relationship with possibility. 7. Cultivating hope. Practical strategies.
Okay, so if hope is like a muscle, something we can strengthen, how do we actually do that? What are the practical steps? How do we plant and tend our own garden of hope? It sounds like something we can actively build.
It absolutely is. That's the empowering part. Hope isn't just a feeling that comes and goes. It's a practice we can develop through intention, care, and patience. While some people seem naturally optimistic, most of us can significantly increase our hopefulness with deliberate practice. Think of yourself as a gardener tending this vital part of your inner landscape.
Excellent. Where do we start? What's step one in cultivating this garden?
Start by making a conscious choice to focus on what truly matters. Think of your life energy as a precious, limited resource. Where will you direct it? Identify the areas of life that hold the deepest meaning for you. That's where hope can really take root, because your efforts will feel authentic. Maybe it's health, aiming for vitality. Maybe spiritual growth, deepening connection. Maybe nurturing relationships, being a better parent, partner, friend. What matters is that you choose areas aligned with your core values, not just what others expect. When your energy goes towards what's truly meaningful to you, hope tends to follow naturally. It anchors your efforts and purpose.
Okay, align effort with authentic values. But then how do you turn something broad, like nurturing relationships, into concrete action? It can still feel a bit fuzzy.
That's where you need to set clear and specific goals, using something like the SMART framework. Once you know the general territory, you need a precise map. Vague goals like be a better parent aren't very helpful. You need specifics. SMART helps. S is for specific. Get crystal clear. Instead of spend more time with family, try have dinner together with no devices 4 nights a week. Very concrete.
Okay, super specific. What about M, measuring it?
M is for measurable. How will you know you're making progress? For the dinner example, track family dinners on the calendar and note one meaningful conversation from each meal. This gives you tangible feedback.
Got it. And A, attainable, right. Keep it realistic.
Yes, A is attainable, achievable. Can you realistically do this? Given schedules, maybe start with 2 dinners a week, not 4, if that's more achievable right now. Setting yourself up for success is key.
So important to avoid getting discouraged. And
R is realistic relevant. Does this goal actually align with your deeper values? Family dinners matter because they build connection. If that's a core value, the goal is relevant and meaningful to you.
And lastly, T for time-bound. Gives it some urgency.
Exactly. T is time-bound. Set a time frame. Establish this routine within 1 month and maintain it for the school year. Compare, I want to connect more with family, to I'll schedule a 1-hour video call every Sunday with my parents for the next 3 months. The second one gives you a clear path you can actually walk.
That difference is huge. Turns wishing into doing. But even with a SMART goal, big goals can still feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. That's why the next step is to build stepping stones. Think of any big goal, like crossing a river. You need stepping stones. Break the larger goal down into smaller, manageable steps that build on each other. Each small success gives you momentum for the next. For example, if your goal is a certain kind of education for your kids, Maybe focused on intuition and creativity. You wouldn't just say educate them well. Well, you might set smaller goals, involve them in art or nature activities first, then maybe find specialized lessons. Then find ways for them to share their skills. This step-by-step approach makes big changes feel doable and provides regular wins that fuel hope and keep you going. Now, this idea of focusing on what you can actually control, it's captured perfectly in the Serenity Prayer, isn't it? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That leads directly to our next strategy. Focus on your circle of influence.
Ah, the serenity prayer. So much wisdom in so few words. Knowing where to put your energy is crucial, right? Trying to control the uncontrollable just leads to frustration.
Precisely. Imagine two circles. A small inner one with everything you can directly influence your thoughts, actions, efforts, and a bigger outer circle with everything else other people's choices, external events, outcomes. Hopeful people focus their energy on that inner circle. They practice acceptance for what's outside it. For instance, you can control the effort you put into learning something, but not the final grade. You control your communication, but not the other person's response. You control your job application quality, but not the hiring decision. By setting goals around your inputs, your effort, your actions, rather than purely outcomes you don't fully control, you maintain a sense of agency. That's foundational for resilient hope.
And life inevitably throws curveballs. Plans go sideways. Obstacles pop up.
Which is exactly why we need to embrace flexibility. Even the best plans hit unexpected bumps. A hopeful person sees these not as defeats, but as invitations to adapt, to get creative. Like water flowing around a rock, hope finds alternative paths. You have to be willing to revisit your goals, reevaluate your strategies, ask, what's the obstacle? What are other ways forward? Brainstorm solutions, pivot if needed, ask for advice. Flexibility is strength, not weakness. Remember the oak versus the willow in the storm. The willow bends and survives. The rigid oak breaks. Be the willow.
Great analogy. So beyond the planning and adapting, is there a core mental practice we can use daily to keep that hopeful mindset strong?
Yes, a really powerful one is to harness the power of visualization. Elite athletes and top performers know this secret. Regularly visualizing desired outcomes enhances motivation and performance. Neuroscience confirms it. Positive mental rehearsals create and strengthen neural pathways, essentially training your brain for success. This isn't just idle daydreaming. It's active mental preparation that complements action. If you're starting meditation, vividly imagine feeling centered and calm afterwards. Really feel it. If aiming for a new role, envision yourself succeeding, handling challenges confidently. Feel the satisfaction. Visualization becomes a renewable source of motivation, especially when progress feels slow or obstacles seem large. It keeps the goal alive in your mind. 8. Hope across sacred traditions, the eternal wellspring.
It really is remarkable when you look closely how hope just shows up everywhere, across cultures, across history, in different belief systems, not just as a passing feeling, but as something foundational, enduring, like a golden thread running through it all.
It really is. And in many world religions and wisdom traditions, we find this idea of transcendent hope. It's a quality that seems to exist independently of our immediate circumstances. Unlike everyday optimism that goes up and down with our fortunes, this deeper hope remains steady. An anchor in the storm. It provides that inner strength to keep going, even when things look bleak externally. It doesn't deny difficulty often, it acknowledges suffering quite directly, but it offers assurance that challenges exist within a larger context of meaning and purpose. Like stars only visible in the darkest night, this hope often shines brightest when life is hardest, when ordinary comforts fail.
And you can almost hear that same message echoed in different sacred texts, right? The same core idea of possibility, just in different words.
Absolutely. The universality is striking. In the Quran, from the Islamic tradition, you find verses like, "Do not lose heart, nor fall into despair. You shall triumph if you are believers," emphasizing faith and hope as strength. And also, after a difficulty, Allah will soon grant relief, teaching patience and trust. In Christian scriptures, Romans 8.28 speaks of purpose even in adversity. And we know that all things work together for the good of those that love God, suggesting challenges fit into a bigger benevolent plan. Hindu wisdom in the Bhagavad Gita talks about divine power working through us. The power of God is with you at all times, using you as a mere instrument, implying support even in struggle. And Buddhist teaching, while focused on suffering, encourages finding the blessing within it. Every experience, no matter how bad it seems, holds within it a blessing. The goal is to find it. Looking for growth even in pain, different languages, different metaphors, but a common wisdom emerges.
Hope anchored in something beyond the material world provides deep sustenance when ordinary optimism runs dry.
It's like they're all pointing towards the same inner source, right? Regardless of the name. A truth deeper than doctrine.
That's exactly it. The source within. The ultimate hope these traditions offer often points towards profound transformation, reaching the kingdom of God, achieving enlightenment, finding liberation. And what unites them is this recognition that the source isn't primarily external circumstances, but a living presence, an inexhaustible spring within our own being. This inner wellspring is where hope, love, and joy continually renew themselves, even when the outside world looks barren. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Not a distant promise, but a present reality waiting to be realized. Remember the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well. He spoke of water that quenches thirst permanently. "Whoever drinks the water I will give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." It's a powerful metaphor for hope based on external things, which always leaves us thirsty again, versus this perennial inner spring that meets our deepest needs. Rumi, the Sufi mystic, put it beautifully. "The river that flows in you also flows in me," pointing to that shared universal source beneath our individual differences. Whether we call it divine presence, Buddha nature, Atman, or something else, this inner reality is the ultimate ground of transcendent hope. It's not just a psychological trick, it's a connection to what endures. In our deepest challenges, when all external reasons for hope seem gone, this inner wellspring sustains the spirit, whispering that there's something more than suffering, something enduring. 1XM10. When hope fades. Understanding suicide and hopelessness. As we celebrate the power of hope, it's also really essential, critically important actually, to acknowledge its opposite, to talk about what happens when hope disappears completely from someone's view. Suicide is the tragic endpoint of despair, when faith in any possibility for things to get better seems utterly lost. When someone feels their pain is unbearable, unending, and inescapable, suicide can tragically seem like the only way out. During intense crisis, a person's perspective often narrows drastically, like looking through a tunnel. It obscures other options, making escape seem like the only choice. But that perception, however real and overwhelming it feels, doesn't reflect the full reality of possibilities that often still exist, even in the darkest times.
That tunnel vision, that feeling of being trapped with no way out, must be incredibly terrifying and isolating.
Profoundly so. And it's crucial to understand, suicide rarely comes from just one thing. It's almost always a complex mix. Biological factors, psychological struggles, social pressures, existential pain, all converging at a moment of extreme vulnerability. Recognizing these interconnected risk factors helps us create pathways for prevention, for intervention, connecting people back to hope and support when they most need it. Understanding these factors helps us be more aware.
So what are some of those key risk factors we should be aware of? The things that increase vulnerability?
Research points to several key areas. Let's start with the internal psychological factors. The single biggest predictor, consistently, is hopelessness itself, that inability to imagine any positive future. When someone truly believes things will never get better, enduring the pain seems impossible. Closely related are psychiatric disorders. Around 90% of people who die by suicide have a diagnosable condition like major depression, PTSD, or bipolar disorder. These conditions can severely distort thinking and perspective. A previous suicide attempt is also a very strong predictor, sadly. It signals extreme distress and might indicate a learned, though harmful, way of coping. Gender differences exist here too. Women attempt more often, but men tend to use more lethal methods, leading to higher completion rates. And substance abuse significantly increases risk. Alcohol and drugs impair judgment, lower inhibitions, intensify emotional pain, and create life problems that feed despair.
Okay, those are internal vulnerabilities. What about the external world, the social context?
Yes, social and contextual factors are also critical. Marital status, for example. Rates tend to be higher among unmarried individuals, suggesting supportive partnerships can be protective. Social isolation is a huge factor. Feeling disconnected, alone, like you don't belong, it dramatically increases risk. Connection is vital. For sexual minority status, LGBTQ+ individuals facing rejection or hostility are at significantly higher risk, highlighting the absolute need for acceptance and support. Access to firearms is a major concern. Guns are highly lethal, leaving little room for second thoughts or intervention. And tragically, media influence is real. Studies show spikes in suicides after highly publicized celebrity deaths, pointing to the impact of social modeling and the need for responsible reporting.
It's sobering how much external factors can impact someone's internal struggle. Are there physical or historical factors too?
Yes, definitely. Physical and historical factors matter. Medical illnesses, especially chronic, painful, or terminal ones, increase risk, particularly if they impact quality of life or create feelings of being a burden. Childhood adversity abuse, neglect, trauma leaves lasting scars and significantly increases suicide risk later in life. It highlights how early experiences shape vulnerability. And there's a component of family history and genetics. Risk increases if suicide, mental illness, or substance abuse runs in the family, reflecting both potential genetic predispositions and learned patterns.
And then there are those immediate triggers, the things that might push someone over the edge when vulnerabilities are already high.
Exactly. We also see situational triggers. Certain medications, like some antidepressants, carry warnings, especially for younger adults in the first couple of months. Close monitoring is key. And major stressful life events, losing a loved one, relationship breakups, serious financial or legal trouble, can overwhelm coping resources, especially if multiple stressors hit at once.
It's so important for everyone listening to remember, these risk factors are signals, not destiny. They tell us someone might be vulnerable, that we need to reach out, offer support, connect them with resources. They don't guarantee an outcome.
That's absolutely crucial. Hopelessness, however profound it feels, is often a symptom, distorted by pain. It's not necessarily the final truth. With the right support, given compassionately and in time, even the deepest despair can lift. The tunnel can widen, light can return, pathways forward can become visible again. X. Recognizing the signals and building bridges. Suicide warning signs and prevention. Just like we learn to recognize signs of an approaching storm, people thinking about suicide often show signals of their internal distress. Learning to recognize these warning signs gives us critical opportunities to intervene, possibly saving a life. Becoming familiar with them helps us respond effectively before the crisis peaks.
What are those specific signals we should look out for? The things that go beyond typical sadness?
The most direct are verbal expressions. Talking about wanting to die, feeling hopeless, being a burden, having no reason to live. Statements like, "I wish I were dead," or "everyone would be better off without me." Always take these seriously. Another key sign is unexplained preparations or farewells. Giving away treasured possessions, suddenly organizing finances, making a will, writing goodbye letters without a clear reason like moving away. These might be preparations. Also listen for difference. Saying unusual goodbyes. Saying things with a finality or emotional weight that seems out of place for the situation, like, "I want you to know how much you meant to me." Be alert if someone is acquiring means for self-harm, buying a gun, researching methods online, hoarding pills. Notice significant social withdrawal, pulling away from friends, family, activities they used to enjoy. This often reflects deep disconnection. Pay attention to a preoccupation with death themes, an unusual focus on death, dying, or violence in conversations, writing, or media choices. Look for increased risk-taking or self-destructive behavior, things like reckless driving, increased substance use, unsafe sex, suggesting a disregard for personal safety. And finally, watch for a deterioration in mental health or addiction recovery. A noticeable worsening of symptoms after a period of stability can signal heightened risk. Recognizing signs is crucial, but understanding prevention strategies gives us concrete ways to help. We can actively build bridges across that chasm of despair. These offer real pathways back to hope.
Yes, actionable strategies. How do we start building those bridges?
It really needs a comprehensive treatment approach. Mental health crises involve the whole person: physical, mental, social, spiritual. The best approaches address all these dimensions together. Encourage holistic care.
Makes sense. Treat the whole person, and connection must be huge too.
Absolutely vital. Supportive community connections are key. Help people strengthen their networks: friends, family, faith groups, support groups. Connection counters isolation, a major risk factor. This links to a collaborative approach to crisis. No one should face suicidal thoughts alone. Shared support, shared problem solving is always better than struggling in isolation.
And if medication is involved.
Medication management is critical. Support consistent use as prescribed. Never stop psychiatric meds abruptly without medical guidance. Withdrawal can be dangerous. Also, education about conditions empowers people. Understanding depression, anxiety, etc. normalizes the experience, reduces blame, and clarifies treatment options. Encourage learning from reliable sources.
What about making prevention more personal, tailored to the individual?
That's very helpful. Work with professionals on personalized warning sign awareness. Identifying an individual's specific triggers or patterns that signal a crisis is brewing allows for earlier intervention. This leads to crisis response planning, creating a clear, written plan before a crisis hits. What steps to take, who to call, what resources to use. Having this ready provides direction when thinking is difficult. For immediate safety, environmental safety measures are crucial. Remove or secure potential means of self-harm, firearms, excess medications, sharp objects. Creating time and space between impulse and action is vital.
And what about connecting with others who've walked that path?
Invaluable. Connection with peer support offers hope and perspective from people who truly understand. Groups for those who've experienced suicidal thoughts provide shared experience and proof that recovery is possible. Finally, for anyone wanting to be better equipped, professional training resources like ASIST, Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, teach practical suicide first aid skills for community members. We can all become better equipped to support others and ourselves. And remember, again, hopelessness is often temporary. Support makes a huge difference. New possibilities can emerge.
The practice of hope. Cultivating a hopeful life.
Okay, we've established hope is like a muscle. It can be developed. So how do we train it day to day? What are the exercises for our garden of hope? How do we make it flourish?
Exactly. It's a skill, a practice, not just a feeling. Like any skill, it strengthens with consistent exercise, weakens with neglect. We can all develop it more intentionally. Here are some practical ways to do that, to turn the idea into reality.
Great. What are some daily practices listeners can start using right away? A really potent one is a morning vision. Just 2 minutes each morning before the day gets going. Visualize one positive possibility, maybe a relationship healing, a project succeeding, or just finding moments of peace. Focus on how it feels as it unfolds. This sets a positive tone for the day. Another is keeping a strength inventory. Actively remind yourself of challenges you've already overcome. Keep a log, a journal of difficulties navigated, big or small, and the strengths you used. When doubt creeps in, review this evidence of your resilience. We tend to forget our own strengths. This anchors us in them.
Love that, building on past successes. What about when you feel stuck on a current problem, can't see a way out?
Try possibility mapping. When an obstacle feels huge, instead of just staring at it, brainstorm multiple ways forward. Set a timer, maybe 5 minutes, and just list every possible approach, even wild ideas. This actively stimulates the pathways part of hope, training your brain to see alternatives instead of dead ends. Also, practice progress celebration. Acknowledge every step towards your goals, however small. Don't just focus on the finish line. Maybe just say to yourself, I made progress today by, or share a small win. Each recognized step builds momentum for the next, feeding that upward spiral. And finally, seek out hope companions. Intentionally spend time with people who are genuinely hopeful and possibility-oriented. Hope is contagious. Being around constructive perspectives helps sustain your own.
Even with these practices, I bet there are sneaky thought patterns that can block hope. What are those common barriers and how do we tackle them?
Yes, definitely. Even with good intentions, ingrained thinking habits can undermine hope. Recognizing them is the first step. One is personalization. That's when we blame ourselves entirely for negative events, ignoring other factors. It's all my fault. Counter it by asking, what other factors, situational, external, might have contributed? Broaden the perspective beyond self-blame.
Right, look outwards too. What about feeling like bad times will last forever?
That's permanence. The belief that current difficulties are permanent, unchanging. It's paralyzing. Counter it by recalling past challenges that did eventually resolve or change. Remind yourself most difficulties are temporary, not forever. Life flows.
Yeah.
Related is pervasiveness. That's when one setback seems to poison everything. One bad area makes your whole life feel bad. Counter this with compartmentalization. Acknowledge the difficulty in one area, but consciously recognize that other parts of your life are still okay, still functioning. Don't let one problem infect everything.
And for those of us who strive for perfection, that seems like it could kill hope too.
Oh, absolutely. Perfectionism. Demanding flawless outcomes often leads to paralysis, fear of failure, and inevitable disappointment, because perfection is impossible. Replace it with a commitment to excellence, doing your best, learning, growing, while accepting imperfection. Strive for progress, not flawlessness.
These are really helpful shifts, but what about truly tough, ongoing situations? Chronic illness, deep grief. How does hope work then?
Those require nuance, definitely. For chronic illness, when a cure isn't the goal, hope needs redefining. Focus shifts to quality of life, managing symptoms, nurturing connections, living as fully as possible within the limitations. Hope becomes about living well with it. With grief and loss, hope might feel impossible at first. Start small. Hope to get through the next hour. Hope for a moment of peace. Hope in a comforting memory. Allow hope to emerge slowly alongside the grief, not trying to force it. Hope within the sadness.
And practical struggles, like money problems or relationship endings.
For economic hardship, hope involves practical steps, seeking resources, support, and perspective shifts, remembering others who've navigated similar paths, looking for skill-building opportunities. Focus on immediate actions and maintain awareness of possibilities. For relationship breakdown, hope involves both accepting the painful reality and thinking about future possibilities. Acknowledge the loss, feel the pain, but stay open to how this change might lead to growth, new connections, or deeper self-understanding. Hope here is about finding meaning even when things fall apart. Trusting endings can be beginnings. 12. Hope as a way of being. Beyond technique to embodiment. As we consistently practice these things, something really profound starts to shift. Hope stops being something we consciously do and starts becoming our natural way of being. It moves from effortful technique to simply being a hopeful person. This shift, from doing hope to being hope, is the deepest transformation. It infuses everything.
Wow, from technique to being, that's huge. How does that happen? Are there stages to that evolution?
It seems to unfold naturally, like learning any complex skill. First is the deliberate practice stage. This is where it requires conscious effort, using the techniques we discussed. It feels like work, requiring discipline.
Right, the initial effortful phase. What happens as those practices take hold?
Then you move into the expanding awareness stage. You start noticing opportunities, pathways, reasons for optimism more naturally. Less effort needed. Your mind develops the habit of possibility thinking. You catch negative spirals quicker and redirect yourself more easily, almost instinctively.
Okay, so it becomes more automatic, less of a conscious struggle.
Exactly, which leads to the intuitive response stage. Here, hope becomes your default setting. You meet challenges with curiosity about solutions, not automatic defeat. Your whole nervous system kind of recalibrates. You respond to obstacles with engagement, not just fight, flight, freeze. It feels integrated.
And the final stage, where it's just part of you.
That's the embodied hope stage. Hope infuses your entire being, how you perceive things, the decisions you make, your relationships, your identity. You don't practice hope anymore, you live from it. Like breathing, it happens naturally, sustaining you without constant effort. It becomes who you are.
How would you know you're there? What are the signs of that embodied hope?
There are definite signs. Your orientation is naturally towards the future, envisioning possibilities without forcing it. Problems automatically look like challenges with solutions, not dead ends. Setbacks spark curiosity, not despair. You feel an inherent sense of agency, of capability. Possibility thinking is spontaneous. Your language, internal and external, shifts towards possibility. Your energy naturally flows into constructive action, not worry or rumination. These show hope is deeply integrated.
And that kind of embodied hope must be incredibly powerful for others to be around. I can think of people like that. Their hopeful presence itself is inspiring. It's not just words, it's how they are.
That's one of the most beautiful outcomes. When we live from embodied hope, we become living invitations to possibility for others. Our presence, our calm, our constructive attitude, our quiet belief, it becomes a bridge for them. As your own hope deepens into this way of being, you naturally become that kind of presence, not by trying to inspire, but just by being authentic. It ripples outward, offering light in a world that needs it. Outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive today, just remember, choosing to cultivate hope is, well, it's a quietly revolutionary act. Especially in a world that often defaults to cynicism, it's not about ignoring reality, it's about acknowledging the challenges head on while fiercely committing to finding and creating pathways through them.
Exactly. True hope combines that honest look at reality with an unwavering belief in our capacity to respond creatively, resiliently, purposefully. And your commitment to hope, it's not just for you. It genuinely contributes to a more hopeful world, adding momentum to our collective ability to face the challenges we all share.
So, what does this all mean for you moving forward from our conversation today? If hope is that bridge between your present reality and future possibility, what single concrete step will you take today to strengthen that bridge? Maybe set one SMART goal. Reach out to a hope companion. Or just take those 2 minutes for a morning vision. That journey of hope, it's always there, waiting for you to accept the invitation.
And consider this. If your practice of hope can be a healing force, what specific piece of hope might you intentionally share with someone else this week? A kind word, maybe? A supportive gesture? Just being present. Knowing your hopeful presence might just help them see beyond their own limitations and glimpse their own emerging potential.